Hello and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this Friday, July 19th, 2024. I'm Louis Butko, and thanks for joining us however you found us as we recap the week that was on Trending Now, which you can catch every Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. and 11:30 on chch.com and streaming live on our Trending Now YouTube page. Coming up on today's show, just days after being shot at a rally in an apparent assassination attempt, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump names his running mate and officially accepts the nomination at the RNC convention in Milwaukee. This as the Democratic candidate, President Joe Biden, who was diagnosed with COVID this week, is getting more pressure from across the party to drop out of the race. Nicole Martin has been on the story all week and joins us off the top with the latest. And extreme weather was front and center this week in areas throughout southern Ontario, dealt with massive flooding after seeing a month's worth of rain in a series of hours. Jason Gaidola joins us with the latest on that story and on the resignation of federal cabinet minister Seamus O'Regan. But we start with, we sat here a week ago talking about what we could expect at the RNC convention. Saturday happened, and Roger Collins, who is one of our web writers, news writers, is going to be joining us as well. He was on the desk. He was in the control room as it happened. But Saturday, what was your reaction? What was happening? Where did you find out?
I was at home. I could not believe it. What a shakeup. What a week this has been since Saturday onwards. But it's petrifying. Whether you like him or not, he nearly died, and that would have changed the course, not just of American history, but world history. And what a moment. And we've had a chance to talk with a lot of former Secret Service members, one man who actually protected Trump. And everyone said he's a defiant man. He stands up after being shot. Whether he was at least grazed. We haven't actually seen the wound. He's been wearing that bandage, but he was struck in a way, and regardless, what a traumatic experience. And here he stands up, puts that fist in the air, and chants fight. What a man. I don't know. That's my take on it. I was shocked. I go to my husband, Louis, and I tell him, former President Trump has just been shot. Yeah. No one could believe it. No.
And like I said, we were already into the 6 o'clock news at the time. And like I said, Roger Collins is going to come by, give us a minute by minute update on what went down on the air, preparations for the 11 o'clock. But days before the convention, it was, an apparent Republican who had Trump signs on his lawn. Here's this 18-year-old kid who was apparently bullied. And really, I hate to quote Joe Rogan, but he's like, if this is a simulation, if we are all in a movie, this would be proof. This would be proof that here you have this picture, which for a lot of Trump fans is going to be the iconic image. I think Elon Musk, obviously a Trump fan now, he's been very honest about it. I think there's a hashtag now.
Hashtag MAGA.
Hashtag MAGA. You'll get a little cartoon of that. And then this is all going on. Last week, we were talking about, is Joe Biden going to drop out? We were talking about Joe Biden's poor debate performance. And that conversation is still going on. We're going to get to that in just a second. Let's talk about the RNC convention. It really was a who's who of MAGA, right? It was everybody. It was the people that you wouldn't expect, like the Richard Manaforts who went to jail, and all these other people.
Amber Rose.
Yeah. And then the people you do expect. The congressman from Florida, Adam what's his name? Gates.
Matt Gates.
Matt Gates. I'm thinking Adam. We're gonna get to Adam Schiff in a second.
Democrat.
Matt Gates, MGT, like all those other people. You had his daughter-in-law do her classic screaming thing. But what did you take away? Was it more subdued than you thought because of the assassination attempt?
Well, leading up to Trump's speech last night, I loved CNN's quote. They called it the testosteronies, I should say. It was Hulk Hogan coming out. The guy, major racist, too. So,
yes, we've heard the rants.
We've heard his rants that he's acknowledged. We have him ripping off his shirt and going Trump crazy. Kid Rock's performance, fight, Trump, like the whole thing. It was bad. Dana White introducing Trump. So Trump's speech started off, it's the longest speech on record for the RNC convention from a presidential nominee. it started out, I was thinking, okay, wow, this is kind of a new tone for Trump. He seems actually a little bit more subdued, more emotional. They brought out the firefighter, the 50-year-old man who died during that shooting on Saturday. His firefighter uniform. Trump goes over and kisses it, continues on with his speech. But you can see, and people who are there at the RNC, there's big screens with the teleprompters all over, just in case they glance over in the crowd, they want to keep talking. You could tell when Trump was going off speech. So he's got his speech writers, like, okay, we're going to unify. We had Eric Trump come out a little bit earlier, and he essentially did Trump's speech he would have done had he not been shot on Saturday. The fiery, I'm going to just crap all over the Democrats and their little witch hunt and everything else. Yeah. Eric did that. Trump, I don't think, was supposed to, but Trump is Trump. Yeah. So as much as the party is trying to say he's this new man with a new tone and everything else, sure, he had a near-death experience, and that will change anyone. But he's still Trump. He goes off script. He does his whole thing. Nancy Pelosi's crazy. He starts talking about Silence of the Lambs again when he's talking about migrants. Hannibal Lecter's a great man. Like,
loves Hannibal Lecter more than anyone.
Anthony Hopkins spoke out today and was just like, can he stop? This is disgusting.
Maybe
can you please stop?
He doesn't understand the movie. Like, Hannibal Lecter's the bad guy in the movie. And he says, you know, it's a beautiful scene at the end. I'm going to have a friend for dinner. It's so beautiful at the end.
Love this. Love what you're doing.
I saw that it went too long. A lot of analysts saying now that if that's the Trump that they get on the campaign trail, it might open the door. It was the best thing that happened to Democrats, that rambly, off-topic speech.
It was like a whiplash happening.
It was back and forth, yeah. And it didn't go on until 10 p.m. I didn't stay up. I didn't stay up for it. I'll give you the credit.
Listen, I'll admit I dozed off a little bit from time to time, but I did stay up.
You and a few people in the audience, by the way. Yeah, you and a few people in the audience that they went to. He officially accepted it. J.D. Vance, that happened this week, too, being named VP. He was obviously one of the finalists, one of three. What do you make of J.D. Vance as a VP pick?
It's so bizarre to me. I understand that the whole process behind it is they really need the battleground states of like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and he appeals to those voters. He's a white younger man who's very pro-worker, so that's him. But we had to revisit this week some of the things that he has said about Trump. How on earth can you pick a VP candidate that has said that he is America's Hitler? This is a Republican, but why would you ever have him as a running mate then? Yeah. So we'll see how it works in his favor or not come November.
There were so many things. He was called out on it to his face. He was asked about it on Fox News, of all places, and he said, well, you know, that was before Donald Trump was president, and I saw what a great job he did as president. And J.D. Vance, the second-year senator out of Ohio.
Yeah. But his wife was what really went viral.
She's Hindu, right?
Yeah, and she did not look like she was too excited about being there. She looked pretty miserable at times, and she was booed several times. She came up to introduce J.D. Vance. As soon as she mentioned she was a vegetarian, the farmers in the crowd were furious. So it's some tense moments. So it'll be interesting to see how they all work together.
So the RNC was happening yesterday. Like, this is what, we say this every week. But it's amazing how much can happen in a week. And there are stories on this show, on our show, that we're not even going to have time to get to, right? The Wall Street Journal journalist sentenced to 16 years for espionage by a Russian court. There's things that
the ICJ decision today with Palestine, with Israel. There's so many things.
Happen every day. So this week just felt like a blur in one way, because we also have these continuing reports. And last night, Axios was pretty clear, and they said Joe Biden may drop out as soon as this weekend. Now, Joe Biden is defiant and says that he is not dropping out, and he still thinks he's the best one. But what do you make of all these talks? Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, got that one right this time, the Senate candidate for California, these more moderate Democrats who are calling on Biden to drop out. What do you make of that?
It's gone even further now. So NBC, just before I came in, NBC is reporting that even his immediate family has come to him saying that we need to look at your exit plan. So it sounds like behind the scenes, things are moving in that direction. And he even talked on BET about, we aired the clip as well, that his health If a doctor told him he couldn't run, then he would drop out. Well, okay, now he has COVID-19, so that sets up a perfect explanation for him leaving the race at this point. I think it will happen.
There's a major announcement.
I really do.
A lot of people are reporting this major announcement that might happen this weekend.
It could come as early as Sunday.
We're looking at about 4 months to Election Day. That would throw the whole DNC into chaos. Does he endorse Kamala Harris? Does he not? A lot of people are saying not endorsing Kamala Harris would be an absolute death wish on the Democrats to skip over a black woman who appears next in line. A lot of people are going to look at that the wrong way, especially a Democrat Party that relies on black women to turn out. So to skip her, but we might see a whole convention.
Democrats have done what they want to do in the past. Like, look at what happened to Bernie Sanders. Look at what happened to Joe Biden in the past. I mean, Hillary Clinton was put up, and that's that. Yeah. They have their mind set on something, and they go with it. Yeah. So it could be anyone. Yeah. Kamala might actually be passed over if he does step down.
Gavin
It'll
Newsom.
come down to finances, though, as well, because they have raised so much money in the Biden-Harris campaign. Her name is on that, so she could continue with the money that they have raised already, but who knows what would happen unless they give it as a gift to someone else.
Various super PACs that could happen. So you think this time next week we are talking about...
Gosh.
I'm not going to put you on the spot. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Honestly, me personally, yes.
Yeah.
I really do feel like we have Obama.
That same BET.
That's apparently been saying.
That same BET interview couldn't remember the name of his defense secretary, calling him the black guy.
Yeah, Lloyd Austin. Dude, like what? Yeah. Come on. It's every interview. I'm holding my breath.
We said that last week.
It's honestly gotten worse every single time. So I think that they all know, and I really hope that someone within his family is letting him know, because he's done a lot for the United States. It's just sad for him to go out this way.
Yeah.
Let's end on a high note. Let's end with your head held high, and let's find someone else to lead the Democrats.
And if he doesn't win, then he can say, "Well, if it was me, I could have won."
Or you can just say,
I mean, or
yeah, I guess, right?
Right? Well, I know
the election was stolen. It was fake.
The Democrats stole the election from me.
It's election fraud. The biggest.
I know you're very, very busy this week, but you're off next week and the next few weeks.
Yes,
so enjoy. Emily Taylor will be on. I'll be on too.
Fabulous.
I'll be on the show all week next week.
Oh, yay!
I know. That's how
I'll
I
have to
feel
watch
about
from
it.
home. I'll just be with little Mia anyways. I'm not going anywhere.
You better watch from home. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Louie.
All right. My thanks to Nicole Martin for joining me. Still had Jason Gaidola going to be by, and coming up in just a little bit, we will be joined by Roger Collins, who was in the control room as the Trump assassination attempt was happening. Back to some more Trump news. Actor and comedian rocker Jack Black has ended his Tenacious D tour after his bandmate made a joke on stage about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Now, the comedy rock band's concert in Sydney, Australia on Sunday, Black presented longtime bandmate Kyle Gass with a birthday cake and told him to make a wish. Gass responded, quote, "Don't miss Trump next time." An Australian lawmaker was demanding that their visas be revoked and they get deported. Black strongly condemning his bandmate's comments, saying on social media he was blindsided by what was said. He would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence. And he continued, he no longer feels it's appropriate to continue the tour, and all creative plans are on hold. We are now joined by Roger Collins on the podcast desk here, who was in the control room, assignment editing, writing, whatever you were doing on the weekend. You do a lot of stuff on the weekend.
Well, I was there Saturday when it happened.
I was here too. I was in the building. It was quite a panic. Take us through your Saturday.
Well, the news was running as typical, and then our boss, Greg, calls me. I go, middle of the show, what do you want, Greg? He goes, Trump's just been shot. I immediately hang up the phone, key at him on the mic, and it was go, go, go from there. We didn't have anything on the wires. We didn't have anything on Google. Twitter was the only place we had any kind of viz of the situation unfolding. Mm-hmm. So writing what you see, trying to find out what's happening, and just from there, everything happened.
Everything happened. And, I've said it, like, I've been in newsrooms on, the Boston bombing or Sandy Hook. Like, I was working in radio, but still, you're in a newsroom, and it's quite frantic. There's phone calls. So how did you handle that? How did you, as, you were on the show last week talking about you're a news guy. You're like, that's where you go. You like being the one writing the story, getting it there. So how were you feeling when all this was happening?
It was nerve-wracking, honestly. When it all was said and done, I was shaking. but just trying to figure out what was happening. That was the hardest part. So, writing what you see, using those newsroom skills, like, okay, shots, the crowd ducking, Trump coming back to the podium, writing what we see and just telling viewers exactly that until we can confirm actual details.
Yeah.
So as the night went on, we learned more about it. And then eventually Trump did kind of confirm it was his ear that was struck. So that was like the key moment for that story.
Yeah. I mean, the adrenaline's pumping. You were here till what, 11:30?
11:30.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a late night. Great job by everybody, you and the
Thank
team.
you. Yeah,
got to give you a shout out because I was doing sports. I'm like, I'm going home. Sorry guys, I'm going home.
Totally
it was great for me. But you guys did a great job on the live broadcast at 11 o'clock on Saturday. As you always do, shout out to Adam as well. And Eric and the rest of the weekend crew does such a great job bringing us the news on the weekend. All right, from let's go in a completely different direction.
Yep.
That national anthem performance. Now, we were talking about it a lot on Morning Live. I was on Morning Live, and it's awkward to talk about it now that she's checked herself into rehab. Like it was fun to make fun of it at the time, and now it's just like it feels. I don't know if it feels icky to make fun of it, but it'll still go down as one of the worst anthems.
100%. Addiction's no joke. I don't know exactly where she's at, but initially it was a major gaffe moment. Like she just botched the whole thing, and everyone, like you said, was laughing about it. But lo and behold, that same afternoon, she put out that statement saying she's checking herself in. But what kind of twisted the world was the fact that she kind of made fun of
that last line. I heard it's super fun.
Yeah, so that didn't
Gallows humor?
No, I don't know. I don't think that's the time or the place to do that. Plus, it's the national anthem, and with everything going on in the States, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah. Some people had said, her country range isn't good for the American anthem, there's a lot of high notes you got to hit. So a lot of people were saying that to begin with. Why would you put her in that situation? But yeah, that was really the only thing worth talking about from the MLB All-Star Week.
Yeah.
There's not much else to talk about when it comes to that. You're going. There's a big work thing happening this week. If anyone's going down to the Ticats, they'll be able to see a group of 30 CHCH people all at once
on our best behavior.
On their best behavior, absolutely. Always ask for pictures, especially if they're holding 2 beers, 1 in each hand. How excited are you for this work outing this weekend?
Oh, I'm stoked. It's not often we all get together and kind of have the time off. I know a few people are actually doing the evening show that night. They're going to make it out. So, yeah, just to hang out with the team and put some back and watch the game. It's going to be great.
Hopefully Ticats can pick up their very first win of the season. Really appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for doing this, man. I know you're busy too, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
All right, my thanks to Roger Collins. Coming up next, we'll be joined by our good friend Jason Gaidola, who has been our reporter all week. But wanted to get to this story that's been trending all over the world today. A global technology outage. Grounded flights knocked banks offline and media outlets off the air after a faulty software update disrupted companies and services around the world and highlighted their dependence on just a handful of providers. Cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike said the trouble with the update it issued was the affecting computers running Microsoft Windows was not a security incident or a cyber attack. It said a fix was on the way, but hours later the disruption continued as long lines formed at airports in North America, Europe, and Asia as airlines lost access to check-in and booking services, and meanwhile hospitals and doctors' offices had problems as well with their appointment systems and were forced to cancel surgeries. Some experts say that it shows the dangers of organizations around the world relying too heavily on a small number of technology providers. Lots to come out of that story for sure, and we'll have more coming up tonight on Trending Now or on tonight's episode of Trending Now, depending on when you listen to it. Go check it out on the YouTube page. Speaking of Trending Now tonight, you'll see Jason Gaidola.
What's up?
What are you working on today?
Gaidola and checking.
You're working on that story.
Yeah, I am working on that story. I know it's astonishing how we rely on so many things, and
your PC ran into an error.
Our whole worlds get turned upside down when something like this happens.
Speaking of worlds getting turned upside down, a lot of people in Southern Ontario this week had their worlds turned upside down as they experienced some major flooding. We got a picture of the DVP there behind us. This was pretty incredible. I was driving home through Burlington, as it was just beginning. I was on the QEW. St. Catharines didn't get it as bad, but Take us through just how devastating this flood was.
It's super devastating. It reminded me of 2013, which I do recall very vividly, because I was living in Toronto at the time, and I was on the west side. And the best way to put it is that, you know, where the bridge is connecting Liberty Village, Dufferin near Exhibition Place, between, I would say, Dufferin and
the pedestrian bridge?
The pedestrian bridge. Before you go up in the Liberty Village. I'm telling you right now, I swear to God, the water was all the way at the top. Almost touching the top of the, under the bridge. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And it was literally, I was just down the road, and I'm rubbing my eyes. I'm like, is this actually happening?
Yeah.
The DVP has flooded many times in the past, but this is quite bad. And similar situations, people were just trying to plow through. It's like, you can't, man.
You can't beat water.
You can't
water
beat it. You're going to have to get out of your car and leave it there.
Swim to safety. I mean, what a headache in a city that's already a pain in the ass to drive in.
Yeah.
On the beautiful, like, you try to drive to Toronto right now, it's a pain in the ass. This addition to it just makes it that much worse. How is it affecting? How are insurance companies reacting? Is it what's covered, what's not? Do you need special flood insurance? So what's happening with insurance?
Funny enough, so I did interview in the story that I did interview the insurance brokers of Canada. I'm sorry, the Insurance Bureau of Canada. My apologies. I mean, they did say that back in 2013. The costs went over well over $1 billion, and at that time, Toronto wasn't. A lot of people in Toronto, whether commercial or residential, they weren't set up with flood insurance. They are now, ever since that time, and it's we've seen little spurts of flooding in Toronto when they had some excessive rain, and this is just again another one of the bigger examples. I think from what Environment Canada issued is that they said this is probably in the top 5 flooding catastrophes in Toronto, and it speaks volumes into the lacking in a lot of its infrastructure. There's just a lot of outdated infrastructure in Toronto that they never addressed over the years. A big problem, not just in Toronto, but across Canada. Canada's just a really old country, and we just don't know it.
Well, here in Hamilton, we've had this with water mains, right? Yeah. We have 100-year-old water mains that break, that crack, that cause major issues. Any estimate on damage from insurance companies? They
wouldn't get into preliminary. I know the Toronto Star reported it could potentially get up to $1 billion. I tried to ask them. They wouldn't. They don't want to put
themselves in a hole.
They said expectable 45 days before they get any sort of preliminary numbers. But considering inflation, considering the span of time of what it cost then, and for sure it's going to exceed $1 billion. In worth of damages. So bad news. There's a lot of work ahead in terms of mitigation. There will be areas that will flood to some degree, but there's a lot of work for mitigation.
All right, that was one of the big stories you were working on this week. Another big story, a little bit out of left field. Federal Liberal Cabinet Minister Seamus O'Regan resigned from cabinet, says he'll stay on as MP until what?
Till the end of
the term. But a bit out of left field. What's the latest? What's the reasoning?
You would think so. You definitely think so. I mean, he's very good friends with the Prime Minister, and he cited family reasons, which of course it is believable. I mean, that's if that's what he says, that's what he says. Considering politics is a lot of hard work, as much as they go through a lot of criticism, the amount of work and hours that goes into it, I can see it impacting family. He's out in Newfoundland and riding out there. He's working in Ottawa. I was told his partner, his husband's in Toronto. I believe, I'm not sure if he has children. My apologies, but that stuff does take a toll. That's a credible reason, and I can understand when a politician steps out. However, though, it just appears that the Liberals are still in quite a mess. And today, they were supposed to have another meeting. It looks like, cabinet reshuffling is going to happen again, and they're kind of it appears that they're grasping for straws, and they're really trying to reevaluate, because this is probably going to be their last chance to fix things and go for one last run and try to turn things around by election time.
Did he have to take time off, Seamus O'Regan, because of alcohol? Was that?
Yeah, that what was reported. I didn't really venture off in that point. It was. I really think the story was really about the Liberals.
I agree.
And is this going to be the only resignation? I don't know. And it does. the timing does seem weird. And
Instant, too.
They are our federal government, and the questions are just going to be there, and they're legitimate questions. I mean, things are not well there.
No, we've been asking them for a couple of weeks. We were talking about it a few weeks ago with his cabinet, and we'll see what happens. Big prediction: you're heading down to the Ticats game this weekend.
Yes.
Are they going to get their first win of the season?
Oh boy, I want to say yeah, but
Your Toronto is showing, Jason.
No, it's not. It's not that. It just the Tiger Cats have they've there's some teams that are like competitive at 0-5, and then there's really bad, and the Ticats are really bad. But however, though, they must win tomorrow.
I would agree. 0-5 going into tomorrow's game against the Argos. Have fun. Should be a beautiful night for football. My thanks to Jason Gaidola for joining me today, and my thank you for joining, because I could not do the show without your support. Hey, you should follow all our various Trending Now social media channels, and that includes on X and on YouTube. Just follow at Trending Now CHCH when you follow or subscribe, whatever you do on one of those channels. And while you're following and subscribing and liking, you can make sure to like our podcast page wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you can go to chch.com/podcast. All right, Steve Rydick has been giving me a dirty look since he walked into the studio because I stole his chair, so we got to wrap this up. I got to give him his chair back. My thanks to Mike Corsten for directing today's show, and everybody else in the control room. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louis Bucko. Have a great day.